Ah, Haley, that was quick. How long did it get you? How long did it take you to get back?
About 15 minutes, something
That was
like
very
that.
good.
We weren't that far away at that point. I think the pub was about 2.5, 3 miles away.
Okay, that's
So
brilliant though.
yeah, it
Yeah,
wasn't too bad.
that's excellent. Very productive day for you, Haley.
Yeah,
Nice to have days like
I've
that.
been yeah, I just seize the moment because we've had such appalling weather here lately. It's
Gosh,
been
yeah.
absolute um rain upon rain and floods and things. So yeah, it was like I have Wednesdays as a day off work each week. So
Excellent.
I was like, this
Make the
is
most
the
of it.
first Wednesday in ages that it wasn't raining.
Yeah, and you got to make the most of that.
Yeah, yeah. So we decided we would do minimal housework. So this morning
Excellent.
was uh, a few jobs housework and walking my dogs and things down in the woods,
Lovely.
and come back the said dogs for walking down in the woods. And
There's a well
got in
loved
some
doggy.
extra resistance training for
More
that.
resistance training. Excellent. We love to hear it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
fantastic. Well done,
So
Haley.
yeah, it's been a nice day really in that
Lovely
respect.
day.
Yeah.
Hmm,
So,
fantastic. Excellent stuff. How is everyone doing? How has your fortnight been for anyone who I haven't seen in the meantime? How's everyone been getting on?
Been a good week, I think.
Had a good week, Helen? Excellent.
Yeah, had a good
Yeah,
week.
yeah,
Yes.
excellent.
Just
I had
not quite so
some.
social as last week, which is good and bad.
Yeah,
Social is nice because you see lots of people,
yes.
and you catch up with people and it's good for you.
Yeah.
But it's more challenging food-wise.
It is,
Oh,
isn't it?
yes.
It is more
Yeah,
And
tell
this
me.
week's a
challenging.
quieter week. Um, but so it's easier for focus. But yeah, the weather really helps, doesn't it? When we've had a couple of beautiful days here, and I was outside going for a walk this morning.
Lovely.
Just
Yeah.
makes you glad to be alive. Made me think of our session last week around being in the
Yes.
outdoors, and it was like,
Yes.
yes, yep.
Yes. Yes.
Mm,
Absolutely. And as I said, it's beautiful when you get a day like that because it really glorifies like the trees and the colors and all of that at the moment. It's just fabulous, isn't it?
yeah,
It
it
does
was.
give
It
you
was
that
just
sense
lovely
of,
today.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. It's not too hot, it's not too cold. It's just ideal, making the most of being alive weather.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. That's excellent. Fantastic. Brilliant. Any other news
I
or
had a couple of. I've had a mixed week, if I'm honest with you. Mixed
go for it?
because my head's all over the place. But on Friday, me and Pete, I was off work Friday, and me and Peter took our Frankie, my grandson is to a zoo. Um,
Oh, lovely.
and I I went in the ball pool last Easter, and I'd never done that before, and that's as far as I got, just like actually sitting in the ball pool with him,
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
felt amazing.
yeah.
And I was actually crying in the ball pool because I had never
Oh,
been in one before.
good tears.
But
Yeah.
actually on
Yeah.
Friday, I actually was on the slide with them, and I
Oh,
was actually playing in the play area, and I was just like, I was having a bit of a oh my God moment, thinking like, I can't actually believe I'm doing this. And I felt really like emotional. And then
oh.
on Saturday, I was out with Peter, and there was a little black dress. And I'm
Mm.
saying, I believe I'm saying these words, but there was a
Yeah.
little black dress, and it was in a size 10. And Peter was like, try that on. And I was like, oh, I've got a size 10 dress. And I was like, absolutely cuts me boobs off, basically. But I tried it on and it fit, and I just felt so good in it. But then the flip side is I got diagnosed with osteoarthritis in my hip on Friday, and I've actually been struggling with my hip for about 2 years, and they just wrapped everything up with the other problems I was having.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Finally got the got it x-rayed and that, and obviously I've got osteoarthritis already in my knee, in my other
Yeah.
knee. So I know it doesn't go away. So I was just, people have got loads of crap going on, 10 times worse than that. But I just was just irritated and
Mhm.
frustrated that
Yeah.
here I thought after my hysterectomy, like that was it, just
Yeah.
crack on and nothing. But then I've got a dodgy hip, and I just ended up as always, turning to food and picking and nibbling on. And it doesn't even make you feel good. It just makes you feel like crap. So then for the rest of this week, I have continued to beat myself up over the crap where I had to eat on Friday and Saturday night. Not during the day when I was busy, just when I was sitting on a night. Like what should have been relaxing time. Only
Quiet time in your
I was
brain.
getting annoyed with myself and that. So like I'd sent David a message today and then I deleted it and then I sent him another one saying, yeah, it's just me being an idiot. I know what I need to do. We have this conversation every week. It's like table tennis. You don't need to repeat back to us. I know. I even did a post on my own Facebook page to remind myself of what I've done. Not for people to comment, just to give me like a kick up the backside, basically, to say that's where you were, this is where you are now. Like, who cares if you've got a dodgy hip? But it's just what you do to yourself. Well, it's what I do to myself. Sorry, I'll rephrase that. I'm sure other people aren't as stupid as me, but it's just that
Very harsh, Deborah.
negative.
Sorry, now could we go back again and just rephrase that sentence?
Like just that negative self-talk's a pain in the arse, isn't it?
Yeah, let's just rewind, right? Right, and
Sorry.
let's just rephrase that sentence now about the hip.
All right then.
Give me your best self-talk.
I can't. I haven't got none.
You can.
I have been.
Can.
I have been. Well, I don't know. I'm frustrated this week.
Yeah,
and
good. Good start. I'm frustrated this
and,
week because my hip is
and
sore.
I feel like
Yeah.
I have reacted badly to it, and
Okay.
I feel like
Okay.
that is my knee-jerk reaction when something knocks me off course.
Default
That is
mode.
what I end up doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I went back to my default mode. Are you still there?
No, I've pulled I pulled myself back out of it.
Good,
but it's
keep
hard.
going with the sentence.
I've pulled myself back out of it, but it is hard. And we all know what the scales is like for a trigger for me. And now I don't know whether to get weighed or not tomorrow. Part of this thinks not to, because I don't want to trigger my emotions again and end up in that dip. The devil side of us, which I always listen to more than the little angel on the other side, is saying, stop copping out because you've been comforting and just get it done with and face up to it. So that is my dilemma. So when I get up to 5:30 in the morning, I'm not going to know what to do. It depends on how emotional I'm feeling, I guess, is the answer to that.
Well, why don't we ask Helen, Hayley, and Vicky? What do you think? What do you think Deborah should do? Give us your thoughts.
Get on the scales.
Are you okay? You got one vote there for on the scales. Vicky's.
If you put on, if you've stayed the same or put on, hopefully it will motivate you to maybe do better the next week.
Good.
And sometimes you think that, oh my God, I've been really bad. And you either stay the same or you've lost like 1/4 pound, 1/2 pound. And you're like, oh, okay, I'll carry on. But if you don't get on the scales, you'll never know.
Do you know what? I am taking on board what you're saying, but I know that they've been huge triggers for me previously. And I was told not to get weighed off David, probably for months before I actually did, because it was, well.
I'm curious why it's a trigger for you. Because
do you know what it is? It's because, and I'm not as bad now, but I used to, I'm taking over this bloody mastermind. Do you not want to start sharing your screen? Move away from me and get on with this topic. All right, then I'll just bare my soul on here. So when I wasn't very well, I ended up getting diagnosed with anxiety because I was struggling with my mum's dementia. And actually at the same time, my hormones were all over and physically I wasn't very well. No. I put some weight on, which led to negative self-talk, which led to comfort eating, which led to more weight on, which led to more negative self-talk. And I went round and round in this vicious loop. Couldn't do anything. I ended up having the fast track for a hysterectomy. Was still getting weighed after I'd had my op. Obviously, I was all over the place. My weight was going up. So I had about an 8-month phase of calling myself a failure and a fraud. And I felt like every time I got weighed and the weight went up, the scales were more or less saying, yeah, you are. That's exactly what you are. And then I do the gratitude calls. And everybody is so complimentary and so lovely, and it's really nice.
Yeah.
but it also then I was like feeling even more of a fraud and a failure. And so this week is what I felt is that, like, I've comforted. Don't get us wrong, I probably haven't ate as much as I thought, but you don't track it, do
Yeah.
you? That's the problem.
Yeah.
When you're eating more, you don't track it, so you don't
Yeah.
actually know. So when you're like, I haven't had takeaways, I haven't had 10 bags of crisps or anything like
probably
that. Like, I know
blowing
for
it
a
out
fact I had
of
2
Mm,
jammy dodgers,
but you're
but
still telling yourself off
but
because you
I'm still
haven't, you're not
telling myself
perfect.
off because I'm
Yeah.
still like, so I'm trying. So the same. So for example, on Monday night, the challenge is carry the weight what you have lost in a rucksack, right?
Mm.
So like Haley, like me, has done it before, and I think you might have done it before. As you know, you might have done it yourselves before. My first thought was, oh wait, I'm not going to be carrying as much as I did before because I put some weight on. Because I can't, like, at the minute, obviously I have been turning things around and I have started losing weight again because I am recovered and I'm back training, but I can't get past the weight what I've put on. I like everything.
It's
I just
just
can't let it
weight.
go. I can't let it go, if that makes any sense. And like, bizarrely, that dress would not have fit me before, so my body composition's changing, and this
Yeah,
is
because
what
you've been
David has
training.
spent a bloody
Yeah.
year telling us off about, that my body composition's changing. But I'm still 30 years of standing on the scales at Weight Watchers in the Slimming World,
Oh,
Yeah.
where the only
I
focus
know.
is that
Fixated on it.
weight.
So I think
That
I've
is
got
difficult to break.
It is. I think I've got two things. One, you've actually got a diagnosis because actually you now know, because you can now control it, you can now manage it, you now know what you're dealing with without thinking, what is this? What is that? Might be this. Ooh, is it? Oh God. You know, at least you know, and you can then move forwards with that. And that's a big thing because knowing is power and control, and you can work with it. You know this because you do it with your knee by the sounds of things. And the other thing is, it's just weight, and you've done it before. And I think I think the fact that you've recognized it, that you've gone, oh, honestly. And I think, again, stepping on the scales, no, you can go, okay, that's fine. I know what I'm dealing with because I've had a plateau for about 6 weeks. And every time I step on the scales and I go, oh, not again, here we go. And and I think it gives you the, right, let's draw a line, let's just move forward. Because you've just described this week of going, yeah, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And you
I
wouldn't have
mean,
done that
I
before.
tell everybody, like, I'm really good at telling other people what to do.
Sure.
Like,
That's the
no,
secret.
like,
Do as I
I'm
say,
really
not
good
as
at
I
that.
do.
Like, I mean, I've messaged here, I've messaged loads of people. I've rang, like, I tell on the gratitude calls, if somebody asked me something, like, I feel like I'm relaying things that David says to me. So that's why I said to him today, you don't need to repeat this back to us because I've already told myself. And he come back and just went, yep, all of that.
Yeah.
Because I guess because I can't move on. Like, so even though I've had those amazing wins at the weekend, I'm still like, I'm still letting that extra bit of
Yeah.
weight. I mean, it's not like I put 10 bloody stone
No,
on. I put a little
exactly.
bit of weight on, and
No.
not like I'm getting it off, but I just, I
You,
know.
prob
Like,
you probably
I
got
nearly
slight,
called myself something again there, but I'm not going to get wrong off Aoife twice in one session.
you probably got slightly fatter left knee, that sort of thing. It's nothing.
So
Yeah,
it's
who
just,
cares?
so I accept I am too hard on myself.
It's all
And
right.
don't
I'll
show
join you in that one.
and don't show myself the same compassion as what I
Yeah.
show other people. I
Yeah.
know that.
And what you said as well is important there, because it's very relevant for us as humans, is that we have this sort of default state that we can go back to in vulnerable times. And that's always going to be a part of us. But the key is doing what you did, is recognizing I've gone back there and I've started my comfort eating. And not only that, but I've recognized that's not doing anything for me. And now I need to do things differently and move forward. That's the key. That this is not a quest in perfection. Nothing in relation to ourselves and being human and our mindset is ever going to be perfection. But it's about when we start to go down that road that bam, I notice it, I do something about it, I learn from it, and I push forward. That's success. But oftentimes people can say, oh, but I went back to that place and then I unpacked and I don't know. Doesn't matter. we're all as humans going to go back to that place from time to time. But the key is that we take what we've learned about ourselves, we take what we've learned about mindset, we apply that and we move forward. And we don't stay there. That's the key. It's all right to fall down, just once you don't stay there.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to pick myself back up. Trying very hard.
Yeah.
And I think in the main I have succeeded. It's just, as I say, that challenge. My first negative thought was, well, I'll not be carrying as much. I should be bloody pleased. I'm not carrying as much. It's not as much to lug about up me stairs. But I was just like, oh, good. And so I haven't done it. I haven't done the challenge yet. I will do it, but I haven't done it yet.
Yeah. But you got some good perspectives there this evening as well, which is great.
Yeah. So thank you, ladies.
Yeah, that's great advice from the others.
I wasn't meaning to take over 20 minutes of
you
the
didn't take over.
I'm not going to share my wins next week if I have any.
We're all going to. We're all here to help each other, and again, seeing somebody maybe at a place where you say, "Oh, geez, I was there 2 weeks ago," or "I was there 2 months ago," and that's valuable to us to say, "Yeah, and I pushed through it," and normalizing our experiences. That's all very important. That really helps us. It's when we start to think, and I'm going through this and I'm going through this alone and it's only me, that's not a place that we want to be. And that's the advantage of the TSD as well, is that we're all here to share in this community and help each other and support each other. Yeah. So what we'll have a chat about is we're going to rethink our drinking, and we can have our cameras on and our microphones on as we've been having great chats. We'll have a brief chat about rethinking our drinking. So if I was just to throw that idea out there to you, right? Just the idea of what do you think we might mean by rethinking our drinking, right? Because it is a term that we hear quite a lot, particularly in terms of promoting our health and healthy lifestyle. So what do you think we might mean by that phrase?
I wonder if it's being conscious of drinking, because it's almost just so normalized.
Very good. Yeah, because that's part of culture, isn't it? That we have certain behaviors that are maybe prescribed, and this is what you do, and this is how much you drink, and these are the situations in which you drink. Yeah, and we don't really challenge that, do we? We don't think consciously about it. Okay, I see that that's the thing that's done, but is that what I want to do? Is that good for me? Yeah. So really starting to think about it. It is a bit like that iceberg. We can see the tip of it. Maybe that's what we're thinking about in our day to day, but there's so much below the surface that we don't think about in our day to day. So you're right. It's actually saying, okay, we need to have a look at what's under the surface there. Yes.
Like my thinking's changed, because like a few years back, when they started bringing out that alcohol-free gin and things like that, and the low alcohol wine, I can remember it being advertised on the telly that and saying to Peter, what's the bloody point in that? And I could, now I buy it, but at the time I was thinking,
you've come full circle.
Yeah, but what is the point in that? I'd be like, would you be buying that? And people, no, I wouldn't be buying again. I buy the gin myself now, and I've started drinking it's not. And I think for me, it's when I'm in it, I don't drink at all now in the house, but I mean, to be fair, we never used to, other than in COVID. That's when we were drinking, because we never you couldn't socialise, basically.
That was a big problem, COVID. Yeah.
But like in a social environment, like if my son's girlfriend, her mum and dad would go around there quite a bit. So having Peter once switched a bottle of like alcoholic gin and filled it up with a non-alcoholic gin, and we took it round there, and I left it round there, and every time I went round I would say, I'll just have one of them Gordon gins, because I knew it was alcohol free.
That's very clever.
Yeah, but then at one point I went back and I thought, hang on, that's not the same one. So I think somebody else had been drinking, and they probably thought, bloody hell, I haven't drank a lot.
Oh yeah, that's
no
impact on
me. But so I've started buying, I buy it now, but I even get the bottles of the alcohol-free lager and that now, so that when because actually when you're holding the bottle in your hand, and this sounds silly, you shouldn't need to explain yourself, but people just think you're drinking normal beer. Absolutely. And so it just saves all of the bloody, you're not drinking, all of that malarkey. It looks like you're drinking. So And I actually like the taste, but when it first came out, I am very guilty of being one of these. I think because I don't drive, so I never even took
Kind of
drivers into
point of it, yeah.
consideration. I don't drive, and I was just thinking, well, I'd just rather not bother than drink that.
Yeah,
But
fair.
like now I buy it, so I've
Yeah.
come full circle.
Full circle. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, fantastic. Vicky, Haley, any thoughts? What do you think we mean by rethinking our drinking? What are we talking about there?
I think maybe thinking why we're drinking in the first place. I mean, I used
Oh,
to like
very good.
not get out the house to a social event unless I'd had a couple of glasses of wine or something to for Dutch courage
Mm,
and
very good.
things and then like with the pandemic and things like that because I work in the NHS, so it was a hard time,
Yeah.
as it was for a lot of people, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And the, on the rare evening I had in, then you were de-stressing by drinking, sort
Yeah.
of thing,
Yeah,
and
very
stuff
good.
and that. So yeah, I think why is it you want to drink?
That's
Is it,
great.
you
That's a
know,
really good question to
and
ask. Yeah,
what is it you're trying to cover over with the drink?
very good. Yeah.
Um,
And that's
things.
another good point there. So what's the function of the alcohol? And if it is negative, maybe it's kind of a numbing thing, for example. Yeah. And again, if we're
Yeah.
using alcohol as a number, we're just giving ourselves more problems. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Excellent. Vicky, any thoughts there? What do you reckon?
For me, it was more habit. So, like,
Very good.
Strictly Come Dancing comes on, couple of
Yes.
gins. You've got to have a
Excellent.
couple of gins.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And like this year, I was like, oh, well, I don't really want to do that. So I sit down with my cup of tea, but I probably will for the final, sit down with a gin and
Yeah.
tonic.
Yeah.
But it was always once Strictly is on, you sit down with your gin,
Very good.
refill it, and that was your Strictly journey type thing.
Yeah, and
But it was
that's
just a habit. I didn't need to have it, but it was just what I did.
To break the habit, what I did, because I like the gin and tonic and stuff, and also Bacardi and Coke sort of thing, and I would actually put just the tonic in a gin glass
oh yes.
and
Leave the gin out.
leave the gin out, just have the
Yeah.
slimline tonic, and I don't know, there's something about instead of just having it in a normal glass of sort of thing and putting it in the gin
Just
glass,
that soda
actually,
glass or whatever. Yeah.
yeah. And you drink it the same way then, instead of just necking it down as a drink because you're thirsty, you sit and sip at it or whatever, you sort of
Yeah.
thing and that. And I do that with like my Cokes instead. It's like, I mean, I'm totally addicted to Coke Zero and stuff, but I pour it into a glass because it somehow makes it a drink for me, even though there's no Bacardi in there, sadly.
You're all
But
being very clever with the substitutes, which is great. But Vicky's point there is very important because it is, we get into these habits and we find ourselves in these settings where this is what I do when I do this. So every time I'm watching Strictly, I go and I pour myself something. Yeah. And again, and I think what Vicky said is important there as well. Oh yeah, but I'm going to have it for the final. Yeah, of course. Because we want to remember that alcohol is part of pleasure in our lives. Now, for some people, it's not a function. It's not pleasurable at all, and they have nothing to do with it, and that's absolutely fine. And for some people, they do find it pleasurable, and they want to go out for a drink every once in a while or have a drink watching Strictly, and that's absolutely fine as well. But what Haley said was very important, was looking at the why and looking at the function of it. So it's one thing to say, I want to watch the final Strictly and I'm going to have a glass of my favorite whatever. It's another thing to say, I've had a really stressful day and I'm really struggling to cope with my emotions right now and I'm going to go and pour myself something. That's where we start to go into trouble. Yeah, does that make sense?
I think for me, it's in a social thing, and I think this is why it's quite difficult for my friends to accept that I don't do it now, is when I used to go out socially, so we've never been drinkers in the house, but when we used to go out socially, we used to drink a lot. But as I put more weight on, I drank more, and it was what my friends wouldn't see before I went out was me being upset, getting ready, feeling horrendous, and disgusted in myself. So when I used to go out, I used to drink a lot. And I guess using it as something to numb or relax or like
Yeah,
anything just
very
to
good.
stop me thinking about myself and how I felt that I looked.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and like the friends didn't see that. So I was always like sort of classed as like I drank a lot when I was out,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
did used to drink a lot. And I think the difference now is I don't need that crutch now because I'm not
Good.
upset when I'm which is
Excellent.
huge.
Yeah.
It's like now, now I just get ready and I go out and I don't like. I mean, I do still put my bloody hand on my stomach, which I get wrong off every time with Peter. But like, I don't feel so insecure, and I used to look forward to going out, but not looking forward to go out. Now I just look forward to going out. So if I want a drink, I'm doing it because I actually want it
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not because I
For the pleasure.
need it.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it a lot. So like, I do like a cocktail and that. So I have went round blenders with me alcohol free stuff. And there was one weekend I went round to all my alcohol free, drank that, and then had Harvey Wallbangers and God knows what, and then thought, oh my God, what was the point in that? But I had a really good night, and we were out till like 4 o'clock in the morning, which is, I'm usually well in bed by then, and it was just nice just to
Yeah.
just be, I don't know, just be silly and daft and just relaxing and just enjoying it. So I didn't actually guilt trip myself for like having that. I just enjoyed it. And I think that's the difference now is if I want to drink, I have one. If I don't want one, I
You don't.
won't have it.
And
And I
that's
don't
important.
need to.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. 100%. So you've all hit a nail on the head. And again, reminding yourselves of those situations where you do, if you drink, you do enjoy to have one. And that's again, that's part of life, right? That's why it's there. But it's when we start to go over into using it to deal with our emotions, or using it because we're in a very bad mood, or using it to cope with stress and things like that. That's when it starts to become a problem. And the word Deborah was talking about there, kind of crutch, because it's a case of I can go out on Saturday night and I can choose whether I'm going to have a drink or not, versus I can't go out Saturday night without having a drink. And that's where we've got to say, okay, this is something to explore. And there's all sorts of different things that can underpin that, as we were chatting about there. It might be low self-esteem, or it might be even just in terms of what's being done in the group. So thinking about who you're going out with, because oftentimes what happens is that there can be a culture within. So we think about maybe a culture right here in UK and Ireland. I mean, if we were to ask, do we think we have a problem with drinking in the UK and Ireland? What would you say? Do we have an issue with alcohol
Yes.
consumption?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The statistics are not great, right? To say the least. But it's more so, and why the stats aren't great is around the percentage of people, and it's a massive percentage, who will say they use alcohol to cope, right? That's when we have to say, okay, clearly we need to help people in understanding the various different coping strategies that we have, because there's tons out there that don't need to revolve around alcohol. Of course, we want people to be able to enjoy themselves, but not feel the need of, I need this for a crutch. And again, because it's all the problems that it causes us. I mean, if we were to think about, let's say excess alcohol consumption, what kind of problems might that prevent, or might that produce for us? When we think.
I think this.
Behavioral and physical.
Haley, mental and physical, yeah, very good. Yeah, excellent. Helen?
So I was going to say there's obviously the health issues of alcohol, which is a poison. The liver problems, the increased cancer, the issue that it does horrible things to your gastrointestinal, your stomach and all of that. But
yeah,
in your brain, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not good for you, really.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It
And
changes
that is a good point.
personalities as
Yeah.
well.
Go ahead, Haley.
Sorry, I just it changes personalities as well.
Yes, very good. Yeah,
That
yeah.
they go from a happy, jolly type character to being argumentative and
Yes, very good.
sarcastic and whatnot, sort of thing, and stuff. And yeah.
Yeah.
just switching mood in 2 minutes flat.
Good. Yeah, yeah, excellent. And Helen made a good point there as well. I think I have that, but I'll just go back here. Just around it, well, I suppose using the word poison, and I suppose this is something that we often forget about alcohol, is that it is a drug, in the same way that we have lots of both legal and illegal drugs. I mean, if we take smoking and alcohol, right, tend to be the two most common drugs that are used. Why would we think that smoking and alcohol, why is those behaviors tend to be the most common?
They're socially
They're
acceptable.
legal.
Very good, Vicky. Yeah. And that tells us that the social aspect of alcohol is very important. So yes. So there is this sense of, oh well, you know, those drugs are legal, so it's perfectly fine to use them. Those drugs are illegal, and there's only certain people who are going to use those drugs. They're all drugs. Okay, they all fall under the same heading. We have just used legislation to draw a line there to decide what's legal and what's not. Yeah. And as Vicky was saying there, that's important, because what's considered to be socially acceptable, or what's socially prescribed, what's society telling me I should be doing here, I'll go and do that. And again, it's a little bit like, you know, our iceberg of having an awareness of, you know, what we're doing and why we're doing it versus underneath, you know, that sense of society saying, this is what you got to do. This is what you got to do in this certain situation. If everyone's doing this, you need to be doing that. Of course, that's going to influence our behavior. Yeah. Yeah. Very good.
But then with smoking now, it's like it's shameful, and there's a lot of pressure from media and everything that smoking's terrible, blah de blah. But now
Yeah.
they're all just vaping instead.
Yeah. Yeah. And the truth is that we really don't know much about vaping, and we're not going to know in the near future, until we can really see, well, what does 10 years of vaping do to you, or 15 years, or and that you're absolutely right. But and again, that ties in with what Vicky was saying about it being more socially acceptable. Right. Like you said, you have that kind of behavior or smell associated maybe with, you know, cigarette smoke versus the, you know, e-cigarettes and vaping and things like that. And they often have these nice colors and they have these nice smells, and they know very well, they're very clever with their marketing. They know exactly what they're doing to sell these products to people. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Excellent. And I mean, if we were to think about in a cultural setting, and just even thinking in society, what kind of behaviors do you think that are prescribed? What kind of behaviors are encouraged in relation to alcohol consumption, would you say?
So
Even if we think
I was going to say, I think in the UK, it's you know, you go to a pub and people get around, and you're part of the gang, and you know, if you go to a party, you know, people top up your glass. It's seen as, you know, they're being hospitable when they
Very
give you a
good.
drink, and it's all of that. So it's being part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, you know, it's christenings, and it's
Mm.
Holy Communions, confirmations, 18th birthdays, 21st birthdays, engagements, funerals, you name it. A lot of them function around, as you said, the pub and a bar. And that does have an impact, as you said, that, you know, and even just in terms of, oh, have to go and have to supply the alcohol, and I got to keep you topped up, and we're going to do rounds, and we're going to do, and I'm going to buy you a drink, and all of these things. These are all behaviors, they're social behaviors that just so happens to have this substance involved. But you know, this substance can cause us all sorts of all sorts of problems. I realize I skipped through a few slides there, but just even looking at it from a brain perspective. Okay, so in terms of being able to say, okay, I'm going to have a drink, I'm going to enjoy myself, and then I'm going to draw that line there. And one of the reasons why we can end up using alcohol as an unhealthy coping mechanism is because of this term dopamine. Have you heard of that term dopamine before? It's that feel good neurotransmitter. It's a it gets released in our brain when we're doing things that are pleasurable. So, for example, having your favorite meal, right, is going to release dopamine, and that's for survival reasons, because we need to eat to survive, right? That's an essential behavior. So it makes sense that our brain would tell us, oh yeah, it's a good thing to do. right? The same thing happens when we consume alcohol, right? That's why for many, not for everybody, but for some people, it is pleasurable because you're getting this release of dopamine in the brain, right? But what we can do is we overdo things, right? So we get a natural hit of dopamine when we're eating, drinking, we're playing sport, we're doing all the things we love, we're hugging our grandchildren, all those kind of things. They release dopamine, right? But as humans, what we've tried to do is look for artificial stimulation of that dopamine, right? So we're saying the natural hit's not enough. I need to get the artificial hit of it, right? And so that's where we see alcohol abuse and difficulties, excess alcohol use. So again, and going back to what Hayley was talking about earlier, which is really important, it's the why. So is it a case that I want to enjoy my Strictly final, or I'm going out with the girls and want to have a cocktail or whatever it is? Or is it that I'm using this as because I'm not in a good place right now and I don't want to feel like this and I need something in order to help me to feel better? Those are the situations where we need to go, hang on a second. And we want to go and say, there's something else that I can do that's going to help me, that's going to be healthy. And that was something else we were talking about there, was the consequences, like physically, for our health. So it's not going to be good for us. And also even just in terms of looking at the effect that that alcohol has. So it is actually a depressant. It depresses our nervous system. So while we might get an initial feeling, again, from that dopamine of feeling better, sooner or later, and it's usually quite a fast process, that depression of the nervous system is going to kick in. And that's when our mood and everything comes down. And again, that's often something that people don't think too much about it. It's that it is actually a depressant. It's going to make us feel worse, because of how it affects the brain and how it affects the nervous system. So what we've got to do then is try and find alternatives. As we said, we can enjoy alcohol, use it for pleasure, but only for pleasure. That we're not using it for coping, for managing difficult days, things like that. Does that make sense? And again, just in terms of health, like, because you do hear a lot of, like the Guardian, for example, might publish, we found that drinking X, Y, or Z during the week helps, A, B, and C. And these research studies have been coming out, particularly maybe in the last 10, 20 years. But more often than not, what we find is that if there are any benefits associated with consuming alcohol, they're going to be balanced out with the negative effects. Again, that's not to say that we can't have alcohol for pleasure. We can, but just to be aware, if we're consuming alcohol because we think it's good for us, that's not going to be healthy, right?
I like the way you've got open to interpretation, because I was reading that there's been a more recent study looking at the data. I come from clinical research background, looking at the data that went into these studies. And the data was skewed by the participants in the studies, looking at the benefits. So now they're saying that actual alcohol at any level is not good for us. So the idea that red wine is good for the heart has been chucked out the window. So there's a recent study on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, 100%. I don't know if you've come across this study now. It's a little bit older, but and it was quite a strong statement at the time. But again, saying exactly what you were saying there, Hans. This was the Global Burden of Diseases, Injuries, and Risk Factors study. So they're trying to understand, what are the issues, what are causing people disease, what are causing people injuries, etc. And when they were looking at alcohol, and they said that they found that the conclusion of their study was clear, that alcohol is a colossal global health issue. Small reduction in health-related harms at low levels are outweighed by the increased risk of other health-related harms, including cancer. So as we said there, if there are some studies saying, but actually if you consume some red wine, might be good for your heart, might be good for this or that, it's not, because it's going to be outweighed, right? So if we can think about it, there's no benefits, right? Essentially, again, not disputing it's pleasurable, right? And that we can use it for that, but we need to be very clear, there are no health benefits associated with alcohol.
My husband was very disappointed that his red wine consumption wasn't making him healthier.
I couldn't justify it anymore. Yeah, absolutely. And this was here. I mean, the chief medical officer in the UK said there is, quote, no safe level of alcohol consumption. Now, that's quite a big statement, right? But again, what he's getting at here, right, is essentially saying that we can't be kidding ourselves into thinking there's benefits associated with it, because there isn't. Yes, we can use it for pleasurable reasons. But again, that's why we need to have that moderation. And as Helen pointed out there, what's moderation? You know, that's a difficult thing to measure. So it's very, very important that I mean, again, all of you made some really, really good points, you know, from looking at the social aspect of it. So what are my groups that I socialize in, or even my family? What are the behaviors? What are the patterns there? Does that work for me? Does it not? Do I feel pressure in certain social situations, maybe to drink more than I want to? Or if I don't want to drink on a particular day, do I feel pressure around these people? Because that's going to be very important. And then as Hayley was talking about, you know, the whys, and asking myself, well, what is the function here? Like, why is it that I'm using alcohol? So what I might do is I'll just pop you into a breakout room for a couple of moments, just have a chat. And I'd like you to throw up the idea of how might unhealthy alcohol consumption affect our healthy lifestyle goals. So think about your TSD goals and think about unhealthy. Remember, unhealthy alcohol consumption is what we're talking about. So again, leading into you know, excess or using it for unhealthy coping mechanisms, things like that. And then if you could give me 1 or 2 tips on how you reckon we can improve our drinking habits. Okay, so thinking about how it might affect our TSD goals in any setting or any sort of scenario that you could come up with, and then give me 1 or 2 tips on how we can improve our drinking habits. Okay, so I'll stop sharing there. And we'll do, okay, so you should have your invite there for a couple of minutes. Away you go. Welcome back. How did we get on?
Good.
Good.
Yeah, we've got a good long list.
Excellent. Do you have a nominated spokesperson, or are you all gonna chime in?
I don't know. I wrote them down.
I think
but
Helen was writing notes actually.
That's for it, Helen. Share.
Being organised
Share
and
with the
writing
class.
things down. Okay, so Hayley had a good point. She said alcohol has no nutritional value. So what was it? You said it's like a cream cake in a glass?
Liquid cream cake.
Oh, I love that. Well done, Hayley. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Weight Watchers always used to describe it as, a liquid cream cake.
A liquid cream cake. I love
Doesn't
it.
sound quite as appealing, does it?
No.
And then we talked a bit about the munchies and
Yes.
and how that then makes you eat perhaps more poorly. The old days of having like a kebab on the way home, that sort of thing. We talked about Cardiff having some good chicken chops.
Very good.
In Chippy, we have a Chippy Lane in Cardiff. So
Oh wow, a whole lane.
A whole lane of kebab houses, pizzas, fast food, burgers, whatever. And yeah, so they all come out the pubs, the nightclubs, and everything, and head for Chippy Lane.
Very good. They take advantage.
Yeah. And also the next day, if you have a hangover, and we discovered that Deborah doesn't get hangovers, and we're all very envious. So the next day when you feel rubbish, yeah, she doesn't get hangovers.
Never had one.
Yeah. Sleeping poorly. So if you've drunk and you don't feel, therefore you feel more tired, the next day you're more likely to not eat so well. And the whole dehydration as well.
Oh,
And
yes, big one.
therefore how
Very
you
good.
think, yeah, you don't want to go to the gym because you're dehydrated and you haven't eaten well and all of that.
Excellent.
So I think a lot of our ideas are from earlier as well. I know when I go to the pub on Friday night, my husband drinks, I don't, but I prepare in advance, so I have something in the house when I get back. So it's not like, oh, what we're going to eat? Oh, I don't know. We'll order pizza, you know. So it's there ready.
Well done, yeah.
I think Hayley reminded us that it's good to be a designated driver.
Yes, very good.
We also talked actually about if you're in your home environment, sometimes it's hard to sort of measure your drinks. You tend to over pour. And I've bought one of those little measures, you know, that you can, mainly because I wanted to make cocktails, but hey, it's also good for other things.
Hey, the discipline is good in multiple ways. Measurement is good. Yeah.
And I was saying I've got the guys in my local pub now know what I drink, so I go in and I can say just my usual, and it is slimline tonic, and they put it in a gin glass,
Love
so
it.
nobody knows that. Yeah, so
That's
I don't get the, and that's as far as we've got with ideas. But I'm sure these guys
very
have got
good.
more.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I guess the alcohol-free alternatives. And
Mm.
what I do as well, if I have a night where I think I'm going to have a couple of drinks, I'll have like a tonic, then I'll have a gin and tonic, then I'll have I intermix it. I don't tend to like, not very often when I'm out in the pub, but it's like the other way around. When I'm out in the pub, not very often do I drink all night. I'll just have like one or two. It's more when I'm with my friends, I'll start off not drinking, and then they bring cocktails and God knows what else out. And
Table.
I
Yeah.
say no up to a certain point, and then
You kind of
I end up just, I like them, so I end up having a couple and I enjoy them. And bizarrely, when I'm having a drink, I don't guilt trip myself the next day. I just think I had a really good night and it was really nice. Had I had something ridiculous to eat, I'd have been beating myself up the next day. So it's a bit of a weird one, but there you are.
Just goes to show you that you can enjoy yourself and
Yeah.
not beat yourself
Yeah,
up.
I mean, well, David reminds me all the time, and I must sound like a miserable bugger, but I'm not. But I say, you're doing this to enjoy yourself. If you need to enjoy the journey, otherwise, what's the point? You're going to lose all that weight and just sit in the house. And I'm like, no, because I used to have this fear of socializing in case I put weight on the Thursday when I got weird, and so I'd be chewed to bits about it. And I'd be saying, "Oh my God, I'm going out. Oh my God, I'm." There was one day I was going to an afternoon tea and then going to a 21st birthday party, and I was just like, "Oh," I was. I was stressed to death about it, and it was just go and enjoy yourself. Just enjoy yourself. It's one day. Like you need to enjoy your life, and so I do try and think that to myself when I'm doing anything out of the norm. If I'm going away or like going around to friends, and if I want a drink in the end, I'll just think, do you know what? I'm going to have one because well, like why not? For God's sakes, we working our socks off, aren't we? So it should be that should include enjoying yourself with your friends. And if you want to drink, have a drink. If you don't want to drink, well, don't have one and still have a good time. So I am getting better.
Getting there. Yeah.
Getting there.
And like you said, because you do enjoy that social side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to incorporate that into your life. And as you said there, go out and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Enjoy whatever it is in your life that brings you pleasure.
I guess if you don't, if you're miserable, it's not sustainable then, is it? If you're going to feel deprived and that you're missing out, it isn't sustainable. So you've got to find a way what works for you.
The other advantage, if you're sober, you can watch all the mad drunks and you can remind them the next day of what they did.
Oh, do you know what? I have
Use that against them.
In January, right? We go away with our friends. It's my husband's 60th, and this will be our 3rd year. I go on holiday for a fortnight with couples who are basically drunk every day, and I probably only drink out of the whole 2 days out of the whole fortnight, and that's usually on the days where I just think, oh my God, give me a drink. I can't take any more. You're all getting on my nerves now. I've had enough of it. But in the main, it is amusing. It is entertaining. Like, you just think, oh my God, is that what I'm like when I'm drunk? But it can be entertaining. But that is definitely a challenging fortnight, put it that way, when I'm doing that. Normally we only go for a week, but because it's Peter's 60th, we're going away for longer. And it's his idea of holiday heaven. It's my idea of holiday hellish. Not so much heavenish, but it's a compromise. I drag him all over the place on the morning, and then he can do what he wants on the afternoon.
So you can
I get my steps in.
That's reasonable. Listen, well done, everybody. That was a great discussion that she had. Really great points and really great suggestions. And it's just, again, reminding yourself, if you have alcohol in your life, make sure that you're using it for pleasurable reasons, right? Reminding yourself there's not going to be any health benefits, so that's certainly not going to be our why. And as we said there, being smart about it. So if it's a case that, you want to have non-alcoholic beverage, when you're going out and about, tell them this is what I'm going to be having. This is what I'm going to be ordering. That's my usual. I like that. And then have a plan as well when you come home. So it's not going to be, I'm in a vulnerable state, maybe I've had a few drinks or I'm tired and well, sure, we'll just go. And it's just being smart about it. But remember the pleasurable side of life as well. That's important, as Deborah was saying there. Deprivation and misery and all that stuff, so it's not going to be good for us. But well done. It was really good. It's a tough topic, and you all did brilliantly. Great, great discussion points. So it's so good to see you all, and I hope you have a lovely fortnight. I'll see you again in a fortnight, and we'll talk again then.
See you all later. Thanks,
Thank you
ladies.
very
Take care,
much.
Bye.
guys.
Thank you.
Have a good
Bye.
one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.